Did you know that in New York, it's illegal to drive after smoking weed? Many believe recreational cannabis is a free pass, but that's not true. Even if you only have a little green in your system, you can be pulled over and face serious charges. And it gets worse. If someone is smoking in your car, you can still get a ticket, even if you weren't the one lighting up. Police are cracking down on impaired driving to keep roads safe. So if you enjoy cannabis, remember, never drive high. It's not just dangerous, it's illegal. Your rights are important, but so are your responsibilities. Always opt for a sober ride or use designated drivers. Knowledge is power, especially with the laws changing all the time. Stay informed, stay safe, and drive responsibly in the city that never sleeps.
Welcome back to Justice and Cannabis. I'm your host and co-legal director of the Justice Lab, Sean Farrell, and with me, as always, is my co-host and co-legal director, Jeff Hoffman. So this segment, we're going to talk about the ghost in the room, how past convictions still haunt so many of us. The Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act, or MRTA, promised justice for so many people, but for tens of thousands of New Yorkers, a past conviction isn't gone when the sentence ends. It lingers like a ghost, haunting every job interview, every apartment application, and even decisions about your children. Today, we're confronted the ghost, exploring how it lingers, how it haunts, and how we can finally lay it to rest. First, we're going to start with the personal impact and everyday consequences. Jeff, you know from time and time again with so many of our clients, so many New Yorkers, when they go to do that job application or that house application, yeah, they're not supposed to talk about it, the landlord or the supervisor, but yet again, time and time again, these folks are just turned away. Talk to us a little bit about the impact that these convictions, misdemeanors or felonies, are having on New Yorkers as they're trying to make their life better and trying to move forward.
So this is exactly correct, Sean, and it's one of the reasons why the legislature implemented the expungement provision in the law. We know it's a fact. This is not anecdotal. We know it's a fact that a person's income is significantly impacted by having these convictions. The Brennan Center has said that misdemeanor convictions can result in up to a 15% decrease in a person's earnings. And even worse, a felony can get up to 20% decrease in a person's earnings. We're talking about billions and billions of dollars, perhaps over $10 billion in the state of New York that people are missing out on in their employment opportunities due to these issues. And then the housing opportunities is quite simple. If you don't have a place to live, it's very difficult for you to do anything in your life. And so these are the ramifications of having a cannabis conviction that the cannabis law is looking to rectify.
And we talked about it on our last segment, how misdemeanor convictions are supposed to be automatically expunged. But how many people actually know that? How many people are actually experiencing that day to day?
So in my experience and in your experience from having helped a lot of folks with this, no one knows about it, right? Yeah. The law did not require that the state reach out to individuals that had these convictions. And so unfortunately what happens is people do not know that their convictions have been expunged in the case of the misdemeanors. So unfortunately, in the cases when they apply for jobs or apply for housing and the landlord or the employer incorrectly ask them about their conviction status, these individuals don't know that their convictions are no longer in effect. And unfortunately will then answer those questions, yes, as we like to say, check the yes box.
Yeah. And what makes it even worse is that if we escalated just a little bit to felony convictions, right?
Yes.
So many of the landlords, so many of the managers at work, they're not looking to see whether this was a cannabis conviction or not. They just see felony, and it's an automatic no, to your point, even though they're not supposed to. So what are folks supposed to do when they have a felony conviction, and every time they go for an application, it's popping up?
Sure. So that is, again, one of the things that the Justice Lab does.
Yeah.
It's one of the core services that we offer to people that come to the Justice Lab. And again, this is a free service. We help you look at your record. We help determine what are the things that may impact you. Do you have cannabis convictions that we can get completely expunged? Or do you have other convictions where we can get you one of the many certificates that perhaps would allow you to vote again, or a certificate of good conduct? All these kinds of relief that you can get from that. And in addition, it is now possible to get your records sealed. In fact, there's a law that several years from now is going to hopefully seal all convictions that are over a certain age. But right now, we still have to actively deal with this. And unfortunately, once again, the law did not require the state to notify people that have these convictions, hey, the law now allows, in the case of the cannabis convictions, for this to be expunged. And if you have some other type of conviction, there are pathways to ameliorate the issues that you are facing due to having that conviction.
So the two things you just said there I thought was fantastic. So one is we have to be proactive, right? There is an actual energy and emotion that we need to put in place to make sure that your automatic expungements have happened, as well as the felony convictions, that we're actually tackling them. What I think is also important here, and we didn't touch upon it on the last show, but I want to touch upon it now, is who is this really affecting the most, right? We know that this cannabis prohibition is racist, but how racist are we talking about? What I saw from my research here is that 5.7 times and 3.7 times more likely are black and brown people to be convicted, not just arrested, convicted, than their white peers here. And that just screams to me. So we see that this is affecting our people here and the people that we want to help. What must we do to just push them or implore them in order to do more and become active and take advantage of what we can do here at the Justice Lab?
So that's part of what we're doing here today. We're trying to get the message out through all of the channels that we have access to, including television, through events that Cannabis Justice and Equity Initiative puts on, where we try to get the message out. We have all kinds of outreach that we're beginning to do with local government. As we know, New York City was the epicenter of this. New York City was by far the worst city on planet Earth for anti-cannabis enforcement, mostly, as you've already noted, against black and brown folks. And we've been working with the city government here in particular to get this message out, to be involved in the events that we're in. We are working with legal aid and other legal-focused groups that would have already interacted with these individuals, perhaps helped them with their original cases, and then getting a pipeline of the individuals that we had kind of hoped that the state would notify about these issues. But again, starting to create those pipelines where the organizations that have the touch points with individuals that are impacted by this, getting the message out that if you have a misdemeanor cannabis conviction, you need to get your certificate of disposition to make sure that it's been cleared up. And if you have a felony, you need to reach out to us at the Cannabis Justice and Equity Initiative so that we can assist you doing the things that you have to do in court in order to get that felony conviction expunged.
And that's for free, right?
That is 100% free. That's what
sure.
that is what we do here at the Cannabis Justice and Equity Initiative.
And what I want folks to understand is that it doesn't just affect, your job. If any job requires a license, it affects that. It affects your housing, as we talked about. But it also affects, as we know, especially these times, it affects your immigration status. It can affect your ability to travel, to come back to the United States. So this has a monstrous ripple effect that people need to make sure that they are locked into and addressing as soon as possible. And please reach out to Jeff and I to make sure that we're doing everything possible to help you move forward without this ghost just haunting you at every turn. And I just want to make sure that we finish on this last point. All the work that we've done is not without some success and some hope, right? We have been successful in helping people clear their records. Can you share a story with us on that?
Sure. So probably the biggest case that we've dealt with, there's an individual out in Western New York who, after he served his time for his cannabis conviction, finished getting his degree, graduated with a master's degree with honors, became an award-winning school psychologist. But unfortunately, he was not able to continue to get promotions within his career. And in fact, we got letters from putative employers that said, we know we offered you a job, we then found out about your conviction status, and now we have to retract that employment opportunity. And unfortunately, as we've seen in many parts of the state, the judge that heard his case about expungement initially before he came to us just rejected it, didn't even basically read what...
Didn't do anything with the law.
Didn't do anything based on law, just basically made up his own procedure and rejected the expungement. We then worked with this individual and refiled for re-argument in front of the judge. Initially, it looked like we were actually going to have to appeal his case to a higher court, and then the assistant district attorney who was involved in the case kind of realized, hey, we've got a loser here, and if we have to go appeal this, it's going to look really bad for us and look really bad for the judge. So we were able to convince them to basically give us everything we wanted. We got the judge on the record saying that yes, this individual's conviction should be completely expunged with no substitution of a lower crime. And we got the district attorney to actually get on the record and say, we didn't do it right originally.
Yeah.
We are now doing it right. This is the correct procedure for how these cases have to be dealt with. And we now have that on the record so that we can use it in further cases when perhaps more conservative judges don't want to expunge these convictions just because they don't think it should be in direct contravention to what the law says.
Well said here, and we'll kind of end on this point. Clearing your record, it's not always easy, but we're here to help. And it goes beyond one person in terms of what effect it has on you and the effect it has on your family and your community. Clearing the record not only repairs your reputations, but it opens doors to jobs, licenses, and opportunities, and most importantly, to your chance to fully participate in society again. A true fresh start, and we do it for free. So the call to action is simple. Your past doesn't have to haunt your future. The ghost can be removed, and there's a path forward. We'll guide you every step of the way for free.
That's it, my friend. Let's get it done.
Let's get it done. Back to you.